Harmonize with me and hold me tight all through the night. You're shining bright. I'm your oyster, baby. You're my pearl.
William!
What is it, Tom?
Robert's here.
What?
Robert's here, to your left.
Robert Englund.
Hi, Robert.
Hello.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.
Well, I don't know you, gentlemen. You know, when you invited me, I had this fantasy of being flown to New Zealand and be sitting in the Shire, you know, or even worst case scenario, a first class flight to Glasgow and some comfy pub designed by Rennie McIntosh that Billy knew about. But
and instead of
that,
I'm
I'm out here in the valley and it's 100 degrees.
We didn't even give you a parking spot.
Oh, I'll tell you.
We'll get there. We'll do the New Zealand trip at some point in the future.
Exactly. I mean, we couldn't believe it when you said yes, Robert. So it's lovely to have you in the studio. Thank you very much.
We're hoping maybe to have this particular episode slot in with Halloween, which we were just talking about off
My
camera.
favorite holiday.
Is it your favorite holiday of the year?
It
you
is.
must be very popular at parties, Robert.
Well, it's a lucrative holiday for me, I must say. I always get good invitations, but it's fun because I think Dom, you were saying it's like Americans are truly exhibitionists.
They really are.
And that's their time of year.
Yeah.
Yeah, because where we grew up in Britain, it's very much for the kids. The kids dress up. When I was young in Scotland, you'd have to learn a song or a joke, and then you went round everyone's house, you know, trying to get candy or money. But you'd have to do the song that you learn.
Trick or treat.
Trick or treat, yeah. And you would be brought into people's houses and you'd sing the song and they'd give you some candy and off you go to the next house.
I remember we would try to go to the rich neighborhoods because the treats were better.
Sure.
You know, you'd get candied apples, you know, and really great, massive chocolate bars and things. You know.
So did you grow up in Los Angeles?
Yeah, I'm actually a valley boy. Yeah, Topanga Canyon for a while, and Laurel Canyon, and Encino. Yeah, right near your studio. I had a 7th grade girlfriend that broke my heart. Right down the street, literally on the same street in front of your studio here.
Did you think about that as you drove up?
I did. I know it's the nostalgia's incredible around here for me. I do a lot of voiceovers in this neighborhood, and every time I'm out here, I just remember some great birthday party where somebody taught me how to French kiss or something.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
And so in your lifetime, have you noticed Halloween become a bigger and bigger thing? Because certainly in Britain, it went from, like Billy said, a kind of a kid's thing to a lot of people are recognizing it as a legit holiday now. But when I was a kid, it was not really that much of a thing.
Well, you have Guy Fawkes Day, right?
We do, yeah, you didn't have that, I suppose.
It's been replaced by Halloween.
But I was surprised when I first came here how big Halloween is.
Oh, no, it's huge.
I would say the biggest.
I would say maybe 20, 25 years ago. I mean, you guys, we've all dealt with effects makeup before. And I remember going to a party. I was invited. The hardest party to get into in L.A. was the special effects makeup man, special invitation party. And these guys had spent all year perfecting makeups to wear and try to outdo each other at their Halloween party. And it was incredible. And I think Kevin Yeager, who did me for a number of the Nightmare on Elm Street films, he went as like a cobra head. Wow. He was like a cobra coming out of human clothing, a humanoid cobra. It was just an incredible makeup.
That's brilliant. Yeah. When I was at drama school, we had to do one hour a week of makeup, and you know, you'd learn how to become an old man or whatever. And then at the end of the year, you had to make up your own one. And one of the guys in my class who had a real cleft chin, he made his nose a penis. And he made his chin a pair of balls, Dom.
Lovely.
If you could imagine.
Yeah, I can actually.
He shaved his beard into and it was quite an incredible makeup.
Great.
Dick face takes on a whole new meaning.
Yeah. Brilliant.
But I've been lucky enough to share some great dinners and stuff with you over the years, Robert, in many different countries, and I've been so lucky. And I've always thought of you as that sort of, like, I didn't know that you grew up in LA, but you are, if you don't mind me saying, like old Hollywood. You know the names of everyone. You've got great stories about everyone. So it felt to me that you grew up here, and And like, was your family involved in film?
Somewhat. You know, I'm at that age now. I'm 76. I'm going to be 76.
Well, you look fantastic.
You do look fantastic, Robert.
Well, but I straddle a little bit that old Hollywood because it was still around when I
Right,
was a
yeah.
child. I think we lived down the street for a while from Clark Gable, and I used to see him at the local market. You know, in the back by the butcher, and there was a theater literally down the street from one of my homes, and they had what they used to call the major studio previews there, the preview audiences. And my mother and father, it would be like on a Tuesday evening or something, and they'd drag little Robbie along with them, and it would be the premiere of King Solomon's Mines or Anatomy of a Murder with Jimmy Stewart, and they were there in the audience sometimes. You know, I remember seeing The Guns of Navarone. You know, and you know, my generation, World War II was still close enough in our father's memory that as young boys, you know, we were preoccupied with the war movies of the time of World War II. And I remember sitting there, and the famous American comedian Don Knotts from the Andy Griffith Show was sitting behind us, and I had loved him because he'd been one of the comedy players on the old Steve Allen Show, which was the famous late night talk show at the time. And on the screen, all through The Guns of Navarone, it has that military time to let you know if the clock is ticking and as the action progresses. And it would say, you know, 1400 or 1300 or something like that for 1 o'clock in the morning. And Don Knotts' wife would go, Don, excuse me, Don, what time is it now? And Don Knotts, you know, would politely explain to her, you know, now it's 1 o'clock, you know, 13 is 1 past 12, it's 1 o'clock now. And she'd go, and then you'd be later, you know, with Anthony Quinn and Irene Pappas and James Darren and this wonderful movie and the Nazis and everybody's engrossed, and it would say, you know, 1700 on the screen, and Anthony Quinn was in jeopardy, and you'd hear, Don, Don, what time is it now? And this went on halfway through the movie, and finally my mother turned around and she went, "It's 5 o'clock, Mrs. Knotts." Mom, Don Knotts, you know.
Putting her in a place.
Those kind of experiences all the time. I remember surfing and seeing Lee Marvin on the beach as I walked into the water, you know, because out in Malibu and things like that. So it just was naturally around you here in Southern California at that time.
So was it, excuse me, was it being swept up in and around those, you know, moments of seeing major movie stars and going and seeing screenings where they might attend? Was that the spark for you to be an actor, or what was the thing that got you excited to want to be an actor?
I don't think that was it. I mean, we'd all love to say we're in it for the art only, and that it was art that captured our spirits. And at some point, that does become part of our quest and our existence as an actor. But I was very young when I began, and I was farmed out with a beautiful young girl who wanted to be an actress to a teenage children's theater. And I was at the youngest end of it. I was 12, and I think it went to 18 or 19. And I thought I was going to be sweeping the stage and painting scenery and maybe being an usher with a flashlight, a torch, you know, walking about and telling people where to sit. But I did go to the auditions, and I aced it. I was Pinocchio, I was Peter Pan, I was Hansel, you know, I got all the Aladdin, you know, and I was 12 years old, and I was very small for my age then. I hadn't hit my growth spurt, and I got that power of having the lead role in that world and getting that laugh in the right place every night, night after night, that challenge and how exhilarating that is. It's kind of like being a rock star. And then the girls were 12 to 19 and they were beautiful and they were older and they taught me how to blow smoke rings. And I have this memory of being in the girls' bathroom, getting my hair curled for Aladdin. My hair had been dyed black, and I had these little curlers in my hair, and the girls were teaching me how to blow smoke rings, and they were all in, by today's standards, really covered them up a lot. But they had put glitter all over their brasiers. They were the harem girls
Right,
for Aladdin.
okay.
And they were putting more and more glitter on the brasiers and getting my hair to go curly so I'd look like Aladdin. And I think West Side Story was playing on the record player. There was a portable record player in there. And it echoed around, and the girls were singing songs from West Side Story, and smoke rings and cigarettes and boobs in my ears, with glitter on them. And I thought to myself, what? And give up show business?
Yeah.
This is
I loved it, and I was hooked.
Yeah. I remember getting mild hassle from some of the guys that I used to kick the ball around with after school, where we would normally go and play football. And they said, what, you're going to do rehearsals for the school play? Why are you doing that? And I was like, it's a bunch of girls. It's like me, 3 guys, and like 35 girls.
Yes.
And I love hanging out with girls. And I get an opportunity to speak to much older girls because now we're all in the same
And
play.
the best girls.
Yeah.
The crazy actresses. But it's true. I was a jock. I was a champion swimmer and a gymnast, and I played Little League baseball. But I remember in high school going to one of the jock parties, and it was like 30-1 guys versus girls in terms of the ratio. Yeah. And all the guys were drunk on a keg of beer.
Yeah.
And then I went to the drama party, and there was literally like a guy tending bar and a girl topless, lying down with her back up on the floating mattress in the pool at night with the lights on and cool jazz playing. And it was like 30-1 girls to ratio to men. Yeah. And I was like, this makes much more sense.
Much more pleasing.
Yes.
Am I right in saying that you studied in London?
Well, I was there for a split second because of the draft. I was accepted at the Royal Academy, but when the draft wouldn't let me stay there because it wasn't a draft deferrable university thing. So I came back, but here's the great happy accident. The Royal Academy of Dramatic Art had a huge fissure between the old school tutors and Principal John Fernald and the sort of Peter Brook new modern touchy-feely approach. And the old school faculty came to America, and they found this a city outside of Detroit that had a huge arts budget. And they had a theater on the campus of this major university, beautiful theater. And in fact, all of the English actors lived at the Matilda Dodge, as in Dodge Carr's estate, had the largest indoor riding rink in the world. And screening rooms with tile around the fireplace with images of the guests, Charlie Chaplin, and everyone built into the tile. And that's where the Brits all lived, and then they performed in this wonderful theater. And I was asked to become part of that company because I had, auditioned for RADA. So I finished my RADA training there. And then at night, every evening I'd go over and I would be an understudy and I would be on the scenery crew or the property crew. And it was just, it just turned out to be even better than I expected.
And where was that? Outside
this was
Detroit?
Just outside of Detroit.
What was it called?
Meadowbrook Theater.
Meadowbrook.
Yeah, it's still there. It's a wonderful theater.
Michigan, right? You're a Michigan enthusiast,
I'm a Michigan
Well, I worked at
enthusiast.
Summerstock in the Upper Peninsula, and I went to Chicago a lot. I worked in Chicago and Atlanta and regional theater all over there. And we worked with a lot of great actors from Stratford, Ontario, which back then, this is the late 60s, was probably the best theater in North America.
Right.
Easily on a par with Ellis Rabb's American Repertory Theater and Lincoln Center. Christopher Plummer, people like that were working at Stratford, Ontario. So a lot of those actors would come down to our theater because we're right across the border from Canada to get in hours on their American Equity card, on their union cards.
Yeah.
I remember when I used to go to Detroit, people would go over to Canada because it had stronger beer.
Oh, yeah.
And you could bring it back. They were allowed to have more
more alcohol content.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We were always going to Windsor.
Windsor,
and to Stratford.
that's right.
Yeah.
And that time that you spent in London with RADA before you came back, do you know what year that was?
I believe. Well, I was there for a minute. It was. I think it was 68.
And that, because I mean, 1968 London is one of the real places to be on the planet, right?
One of the actors that I worked with in America, we had several. I mean, the entire faculty was English. It was from RADA,
Right.
but and they had just done Chimes at Midnight with Orson Welles and things like that. But one of the student actors, my buddy Michael, he had transferred to us from RADA in London, and Michael would telling me about, stealing milk one day, and I think he got caught by Marianne Faithfull, which I love that story, stealing milk bottles because he was a starving actor in London. And Marianne Faithfull busted him, opened the door, in a bathrobe,
It's worth it. It's totally
cigarette
worth it.
and cleavage,
Totally
So
worth
then
it.
did you just start touring around doing plays?
I worked at the Meadowbrook.
Right.
I was brought into that company, which was great, and I did a lot of shows there. But I also did regional theater, repertory theater in the most difficult one was in Cleveland, and I did revolving repertory, Shakespeare, because you do Othello one night, and then the next night you're doing Taming of the Shrew, and the next night. But I also in that theater I landed the role of Judas in Godspell, and that was sort of my first huge hit. I had groupies and fans that saw the show dozens of times, and to be in a play with a rock band playing underneath you all the time. Again, it's that great cheap thrill of feeling like a rock star. You know? And I don't sing, and I just dance a little, but it was great being part of that, part of that experience.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I had times because I always wanted to be an actor when I was a kid, but there were certainly times where I thought, well, I'll give it another go for another year, and hopefully at some point it will start to, work out for me. But was there a year where you thought, okay, this is me now, like I am a professional actor, this is what's happening, like come sink or swim, this is my job? Or were you also thinking, well, I could also do this if it doesn't work out? Or...
Well, one of the reasons I left home and didn't see my parents for years, I was supposed to be a lawyer. Back when I was a young man, being an artist, a musician, an actor wasn't a big option, a poet. And now a lot of young people gravitate towards that. But then your parents were quite strict. They wanted you to be an engineer or a doctor or a lawyer. And I had been recruited by Stanford University because I was well-rounded in school. Not that I was particularly a genius, but I was very well-rounded, and I had skipped a grade, and so they had recruited me, and that's a famous law school, and I'd said no, and it broke my father's heart, and so I had left home. But for me, the two big moments where I knew it was forever, you get your union card as a stage actor.
Yeah.
I got my union card as a film actor, but my very first movie, I had single card credit, and that, seeing the family name unchanged, single card credit, made my father, it just patched up everything between us, and I was brought back into the fold, so to speak.
What film was that?
A film called Buster and Billy, 1973. And I was fourth billing, I think, in that. But I was unable to go to the wrap party and the screening party after the screening in Hollywood. And it was at the now defunct, but then the #1 restaurant in Hollywood, which was Chasen's on Doheny. And it was like, the booths are like Jimmy Stewart, Clark Gable, Gregory Peck, that's who's... And my father knew about this place. My father and mother had actually eaten there before. So my father went to my opening screening party with Jan Michael Vincent, and it kind of took my dad around, and the actress in the film, Pamela Sue Martin, and they kind of squired my father around, and he had the famous chili, and everything there, and he saw the family name all by itself, and I had him in the palm of my hand.
That's it. You're back in, son.
Back in the family.
There you go.
I love it. And how about, because we're thinking about moments in your career that, people obviously listening to this are thinking about, how did the V project come about? Because that's a moment for a lot of people when they're thinking about your career where they say, oh yeah, that really breakout show that Robert did.
Well, I'd done a lot when I did V. In fact, almost exclusively film, but that's the project, and we've all done this. The project where they learn your name.
Yeah.
They put your name finally, to your face. They've seen you before and they like you, but you're that guy. And did I go to school with you? But that's where they finally put the name to my face. And that's a really important thing as an actor. It's also was an international success for me.
Right.
And that opened the doors for me to work abroad, which is something they never teach you in drama school, about how when you can work globally. And that was pretty early for me. That would have been 82, I think. But it was a weird audition. I had no clue what to do. But the great Kenneth Johnson, Incredible Hulk and Bionic Man, Bionic Woman, Bionic Dog, But Kenny is just a great guy. And I said, Kenny, I'm an alien, and I've been sent to the wrong city, and I make malaprops. I misuse my vocabulary. I'm translating from alien into Arabic into English. I said, I don't have a clue. And he looked at me and he just said, well, you're going to have a little bit of a comedy relief aspect to your role. But he said 2 words. I said, what? And he goes, Gene Wilder. So I just channeled Gene Wilder and kind of tried to hide all the stuff I was borrowing from Gene, a bit of a stutter, things like that. And that innocence.
Yeah,
which works great. That Gene Wilder innocence, because you're an alien's like a baby. Everything's new to you.
Yeah,
and that was such a key to unlock the door. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah,
and that's that great advice we all get sometimes.
That's funny, isn't it? Because when you watch something like that, you just think the actor is totally assured if they're good at their job. So you never think of that there might be. You weren't sure what you were going to do. Like when I think of that character, you just think, wow, that guy nailed that straight away, because it was the standout character of the show kind of thing.
Well, I mean, I was getting, I think, the most fan mail at one time. And I visited a friend on another show called Hotel on the Warner Brothers lot. And there's that thing, the little cubby holes that are behind a hotel desk on the set where, the keys are put. And if you get a telegram, they would put the telegram in there.
Yeah.
And I went over to visit my friend. He goes, Robert, come here, look. And the cubby holes were full of letters to look like telegrams, and they were my fan mail. They never gave me my fan mail that came to the lot. Stuff that came to my home, I got, or to my agent, but they were just using it as props. But that's when I had an inkling,
Right.
Maybe I better renegotiate. That's when I had an inkling that the character had kind of taken off.
Yeah.
That's my wife's favourite of your work. She loved that. But she was saying to me this morning, honestly, she says, but how is that the same guy that did Freddie and did that? Chalk and cheese.
Yeah.
What does John Lovett say? Acting.
Yeah.
And actually, you guys know this, and we don't always admit this, but extremes are easier to do.
Sure.
And we all know that's that middle work.
Yeah.
It's closest to the soul. That's the hard stuff.
Yeah.
Where you really have to throw your tricks away, your bag of tricks away, and just really kind of hone in on inner truth and listening. That's hard stuff, because you really feel naked. If you give me a cane and a mustache, I'm happy.
Yeah. Well, speaking of fan mail, you are just a little bit older than us, Robert. But do you remember the first time that you went to a convention and how it's changed over the years? Because even for me, in the 15, 20 years that I've been doing it, it's become a completely different beast. But you must have seen crazy changes. Well,
actually, I think I probably started close to the same time you guys did. I didn't really get into it until after Freddy versus Jason. That's not to say that I hadn't done some conventions before that, but mostly film festivals. That's what I enjoyed doing, and Q&As there. And you sign a little bit at film festivals as well. But Freddy versus Jason was so huge, coming at the end of the accumulated franchise, that it really made the conventions, a kind of bump for me. But I do remember going to Comic-Con very early, probably for V. And because there was a comic book for V. And Comic-Con was still comic books at that time. So I do remember that brief moment of time, that when that shift happened. And then all of a sudden one day you go to a con and there's Nicole Kidman, you know.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's just changed.
Yeah, it's changed.
And
yeah.
and for people, I think it is a bit of that Halloween thing. You get to dress up. You get to, you know, it's definitely changed from the comic book. But I have to ask though, but kind of for my wife, even though we, as you say, the extremes are sort of easier and stuff. But how close was Freddie to V, and time wise, I mean, in getting cast, and how the person that cast, how did they think, oh, Willie from V, that's who we want?
Well, it was very close. In fact, they overlapped. The miniseries was 10 hours, and then the series of V, and between the hiatus between, I think, the second miniseries and the television series was when I had this little island of time, a hiatus, and I was able to fit Nightmare on Elm Street in. But I was established in Hollywood already.
Yeah.
I'd been working for 10 years and almost exclusively film. I'd already been typecast as a Southerner.
Yeah.
And I'd been typecast as a sidekick and a best friend for many years. But what I knew growing up in Hollywood and knowing a bit of the history of film is that sidekicks were not aging well.
Right.
Used to be that John Wayne and Jimmy Stewart, they had older friends, mentors, or older sidekicks like Walter Brennan. The older character actors would play their buddies. And that was the sort of way, the trope, that was the way it was structured. But for my generation, the sidekicks were getting younger and younger and younger. And I was starting to age out of those, you know, the kind of best friend sidekick, which is an element of Hollywood that's necessary and needed. And it's a great thing if that's what you're typed as. But I saw that as sort of having an end to it, you know, a dead end to it. And I started doing bad guys a little bit because I'd been typed as a Southerner. And a lot of villains and heavies were written Southern. So I did that a little bit. And then I kind of was playing nerds for a little bit because I've always worn glasses off and on. And I guess, you know, the way I looked. But, you know, the V was, I told you about the V audition, you know, the Gene Wilder help. And Nightmare, the woman that cast me in Nightmare, Annette Benson, she had auditioned me for every role in a National Lampoon project. Literally. And I canceled myself out. I don't know if that's ever happened to you guys, where they like you. The casting person likes you, the director likes you, but they don't know which part to use you for. So you go up for 2 or 3 roles in the same project and you kind of cancel yourself out with your magnificent versatility. No, but you know, that can happen. And it was a very great lesson to learn because I never did that again. I used to say after 3 callbacks, no, they've seen everything I can do. They either want me or they don't. I'm not going back again. And so she felt bad about that I wound up with nothing in that film. And I wanted it so bad because I love National Lampoon and SNL off Broadway and Belushi and Bill Murray and all of that. And I'd liked Animal House and the other projects. And this movie flopped, but at that time, I wanted it so desperately. But I think she felt bad, and she was really in my corner with Wes Craven. You know, she may have been whispering in his ear. And I'll tell you something, and this is really honest, and this is with hindsight. I have a narrow face, and I have broad shoulders. And you can put that crap on me. You can, put that colostomy bag medical adhesive all over me and stick prosthetics on me. And my head shape and size is still in ratio with my torso.
Right.
And if you've noticed, sometimes you'll see an effects makeup and the head looks too big. But with me, it didn't. They were terrified about the makeup. The head of New Line Cinema, Wes Craven. And I think that they were so worried that seeing that I had a thin face, that I could take the application and it would work. I think that may have been helpful. It may have been that simple. Now, Wes says I was the only guy that understood his pitch of the theme and what the movie was about. And I love that compliment from Wes. But I don't know if he was just giving lip service or if he really meant that. It could have been as simple as as me having a thin face. I know they wanted a big stunt man originally, but I went in, I greased my hair back with motor oil from under the hood of my Roadster, and I put cigarette ash under my eyes.
I love it.
With a little bit of saliva to sink my eyes. I
love it.
Because I was all blonde and brown. I was a surfer.
Sure, you look
all
healthy,
blonde and brown. And so my hair is fine, so you could sort of see my skull through my hair. And then I sunk my eyes, so I looked a little less tan and healthy. And I played the old staring game. Remember as kids, don't blink?
Oh, sure.
I did the don't blink with Wes. Kept my mouth shut. You know I love to talk, Billy. But kept my big mouth shut and just stared back and listened to Wes. And I think that might have been the trick.
Right. Well, the makeup in all of those films is extraordinary. But, I mean, even if we're talking about the original now, the makeup in that original film is so good and still stands up to this day. Like, it is truly terrifying makeup on Freddie Krueger.
I used to love to take credit for wearing the makeup so many times, but then I met one of your lancemen, and I'm forgetting his name now. It begins with an S. The General Orc.
Maybe Sala
Sala.
Baker.
Sala Baker, yeah.
Saul and I, Milton Keynes,
Yeah.
at the little pub in the little hotel we're all staying at in Apsley, guys, and we got drunk, and he told me how long his makeup took as the General Orc. And apparently, if he had to be used by 9 a.m, he was in the makeup chair at like 2 a.m. for that makeup. Yeah, so I've stopped bragging
I remember I was rapping at one point, and Sala was in the makeup chair, and we were like, wait, what are you doing? We're rapping. You're putting your makeup on now? He said, we're putting my makeup on now for tomorrow morning. So we were going to bed. He was going through the night.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, Robert. Myself and Dom here on my right, and the other two hobbits, we're in the Guinness Book of Records for spending the most time in a makeup chair on a project.
Oh, yeah.
Because
it was forever.
That was the
every
thing,
day.
because, Sala
You
might
guys
have
have
been on
whole
there.
other families over there. I understand. You can-
Because Sala might have been in there for 15 hours,
Yeah.
but we did 3 hours every day.
Every day, yeah.
And that was, how long did Freddie take?
Freddie's 3.5, a fat 3.5.
significant.
And then sometimes lenses, and a lot of times teeth, if they're shooting me close.
Yeah.
If they're not shooting me close, no teeth. But again, my Stephen King makeup for The Mangler took longer because there's hair involved.
Yeah.
And my Phantom of the Opera makeup took longer because it was hair and it was makeup of me over half of my face disintegrated. So it was a mold of Robert Englund over Robert Englund with half of Robert Englund done destroyed. Like The Mask on Broadway.
Of course.
Yeah. So that was 4.5, 5 hours.
And how do you feel? I take it for those ones, you had to have a head mold done. How do you feel about getting those done?
You guys hate him as much as I do?
Oh,
It's the one of the major times in my life where I just think you have to meditate. There's no way out of this. You just
It's
have
the
to
breathing.
meditate.
I think it's the breathing.
Yeah.
Really slow your breathing down.
Yeah.
But that moment where it gets really hot,
Tight. Yeah.
they tell you it's going to do that. It gets
Yeah.
hot and tight.
Yeah.
for
There's a
people
temperature
who
change. And you don't believe it. And then you feel it and you kind of go, well, they did tell me this was going to happen.
Yeah.
But now it's tightening.
Yeah.
And you've got
Yeah.
the straws in your nose.
Can't
and-
breathe
oh
out your
my-
mouth. Yeah.
that's for anyone who doesn't know, this
And you have
is
to hold
making
the
a
look
head.
on your face.
Yeah.
Yeah, making a head cast, which means they cover your whole face with I don't even know what it is, but I mean it's like
Well, it's like a silicon
paper
to start,
mache
right?
Yeah.
And then
first.
plaster of Paris.
But then it gets heavy, as Robert was saying, and hot.
Because it's not just your makeup, it's the mold.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it might be, you're there for an hour and you start to think, there's only those 2 little holes that I'm breathing out of. And if you start thinking about that too much. And the last one I did, which wasn't very long ago, 6 months ago, it was a heavy one. And when you went to take it off, it was getting stuck. It was a whole head one. And I thought, the 2 holes from my nose have now moved. I'm like, where am I breathing from now? I was really starting to
It does
panic.
get you.
I
It
think
does
you
get
could. I mean, I have actually, I think it's claustrophobia.
Yeah.
Which kicks in there
Yeah.
because you do, and you want to, and you have to just say, keep your hands down.
Yeah.
But there's that instinct just
Yeah,
to
you just-
rip at it. Yeah.
Yeah. They said the last one I did was in Borneo a couple of years ago, and great process. But before it began, the guy said, anything comes up and you need to get out, just put your hand up and we'll get you out immediately. And I was like, okay. And there was probably 2 or 3 occasions where I thought, you have to fucking keep your hand down. Because the natural emotion, human instinct is like, I got to get out of this. I can't breathe.
Breathe slow, count to 4, inhale, exhale. But it's also, you hear that saw.
Yeah.
When they cut you out. It's like, where's Penn and Teller? It's like, well, what's going on here?
Yeah, that's not the most pleasant thing, is
No,
it?
it's not.
And the sound that you hear, in the mold and under the frozen foam latex, that sound, it's muffled.
Yeah.
It's so strange.
Yeah.
And you're hearing people go, and then you start to think of Freddy Krueger.
Yeah. Well,
he might be in here, maybe somewhere.
But it's just, I mean, we're just such manly men that we can do that.
Oh, we can handle
Because there's stories about famous actors
Yeah.
that can't do that.
Yeah.
Or that freaked out.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, Liv
couldn't do
on
that.
our film, lovely, beautiful, amazing Liv Tyler, really, really struggled with her face mask.
You're not allowed to say who struggles.
Well, just
That's
a
all this-
person did.
All the special effects people, if they tell you who can't do it, they all say, but never say who it
Yeah.
was.
Well, Livty told me. So.
Well, I also think it was sort of public knowledge, but on the Sting Frankenstein with Jennifer Beal, I think the actor, and I can't remember his name, one of my favorite directors though, Frank Rodham, but apparently he just had horrible allergic reactions to the glues. And and they had to like reshoot everything, and it sent the budget. Just over
that was the
moon.
same with John Rhys Davis on Lord of the Rings. When he put on his prosthetics, he had to be off for 2 weeks because his eyes would he just couldn't do it. So his stuntman had to be on set a lot, with his back to camera and things.
Robert, I'll tell you my Nightmare on Elm Street story because it's got quite a lot of trauma associated with it. There, at my school, St Anne's in Manchester, with my social group and the year that I was in, there were certain films that you had to see to get a little stamp of approval that you could handle it. So The Exorcist was
Peer
one.
approval.
Yeah. The Exorcist was big. Friday the 13th, Halloween. I'd seen Halloween, Friday the 13th. Had not seen The Exorcist because I was warned by people it is genuinely scary. And at that point, the other one, the massive standout one, was Nightmare on Elm Street. So I thought, okay, if it's around about the same place as Friday the 13th and Halloween, I can handle it. Went over to my cousins. I think I was 13, way too young. Watched it.
Get them when they're young.
My God, Robert, I was terrified. And it was made even worse by the fact that in my local area, there was a kid called Ian who wanted to be called Freddy because he had a Freddy Krueger jumper, the red and black striped thing, made his own glove, wore the trousers, had the hat. So at night time, if I was going for my mum and dad to get bread or milk or eggs or something, he'd be on the side of the street like... I had nightmares about it. I had nightmares about Nightmare on Elm Street. I remember the night that I'd watched it with my cousins and my brother. We went home that night. Never happened to me ever since. I was in bed and I was like whimpering awake. And my brother, we shared a bunk bed. My brother was like, "It's okay, Dom, it's okay." He knew that I was scared. I wasn't even asleep at this point. I was just scared that it was dark. And then years later, when I was in my kind of mid-20s, I had a nightmare that my brother had his hand cut off by Freddy Krueger, and it was incredibly traumatizing. So you did an amazing job.
Well, Dom, you got even with me with your predilection for reptiles.
Oh, it's not a thing for you. You're not into snakes and lizards now?
No,
Okay.
that's sort of. I was a child and walked into a children's matinee in the summer. I think it was a cowboy movie with Anthony Quinn. Again, Anthony Quinn. I must have been an Anthony Quinn fan. I think it was the man from Del Rio, the gunfighter they're trying to dethrone him, the old gunfighter. And it wasn't playing. They had turned on the evening's fair. And it was Norman Mailer's The Naked and the Dead. And it's a war movie, so I'm okay. I think, World War II. I like World War II movies. And I'm sitting there, and at some point in the tropics, pursuing the Japanese, the American soldiers in the South Pacific, one of them is bit by a lime green translucent snake, and he foams at the mouth, and he foams out of the nose and out of the ears.
Right.
They touch, and it's this horrible death. And his buddy, hacks the snake in pieces and holds. traumatized for the rest of the year. I looked under my bed and in my drawers for translucent green tropical snakes.
It's crazy
So
what resonates.
It affected me for years, yeah.
It's bizarre what resonates. The moment that resonated for me, I think, more than anything else in that first movie, which I still believe is the most terrifying out of all the Nightmare on Elm Streets, is the moment where Freddy's chasing Tina down that alleyway, and she says, "Oh God," and Freddy says, "No, this is God."
Is God.
And I was like, "Oh, that's insane."
Tina.
Oh,
that's
so
that
scary.
sequence with the actress Amanda Wyss, who played Tina.
She's fantastic.
On the revolving. We had a revolving room. That's how they got her on the ceiling, because she was really, right side up then. And they just dressed everything and glued everything down and nailed everything down. But that still holds up. That's a horrific, wonderful sequence,
Terrifying.
And that's just the old Fred Astaire revolving room,
Right.
trick. I think we borrowed it at that time for Johnny Depp's. It's the same room as Johnny Depp had, where all the blood rushes out of the bed.
Yeah.
And that's just gravity. It's obviously the bed is on the ceiling. The blood's just dripping, straight down. And so you have gravity's help to make it look like it's gushing. But we got that idea from the elevator bleeding in The Shining.
And The Shining, yeah.
Because that's how Kubrick did that.
Right.
Yeah.
Johnny Depp's first ever professional gig, right? Do you have any recollection of him working with him?
Well, I know you guys like music. I think Johnny thought of himself then as a musician.
Yeah,
more.
yeah.
He was in a band in Miami, and I think it was rockabilly. I'm not sure, because his style in real life then was very rockabilly. He had the best hair,
Cliff,
the best hair,
Leather jacket.
the best hair ever,
Oh, yeah.
and those great shirts, those great, and just, I couldn't, really good hair. But I remember Johnny saying, he said that it was March going on April, and the Christmas tree was still up in his apartment.
Living that life.
Somewhere in Miami, and he said he knew it was time to leave, come out west, But he was just this polite kid, yes sir, no sir, Mr. Englund, sir. I said, stop it, you're making me sound like I'm your teacher here or something. But I just remember him being very, very polite, and a story I heard was that Wes Craven's daughter, saw Johnny in the waiting room for his audition, and before she even heard him read or act or anything, she just walked in and said, "Dad, hire him or I'll never speak to you again."
Wow.
And I brought my girlfriend over because I was doing makeup tests and wardrobe tests, and I remember, and she was at Yale then, Yale Drama School. And her class was just full of people we all know now, and she had a great eye for talent. And I remember her saying, just seeing him, and she said, he's going to be a star.
Really?
And she just glanced at him.
Yeah, he's got that. He kind of jumps off the screen, doesn't he?
And my memory of that movie, it seemed to be like the movies that you listed there, Dom, Friday the 13th and all that. But Nightmare seemed to become bigger than all of them.
Yeah.
I think it's because it's about adolescence. It's about the loss of innocence.
Right.
We had a strong girl, heroine,
Yeah.
the survivor girl, the final girl.
Yeah.
But the idea that you could be haunted from a dream to death,
Yeah.
that's universal. So we were an international hit immediately out of the gate. Everybody has the same, people in Antarctica, people in the Aleutian Islands and in Africa and everywhere. We all have common dreams. The falling dream, the drowning dream, the suffocating dream, the flying dream. We all have those dreams. It's part of the DNA of humanity. And the idea that somebody could get into the privacy of your own subconscious and turn that against yourself, I think is just a great gimmick. A great
And
hook.
those young people saying, just don't sleep. That was the thing, wasn't it? Because once you saw it, and it was the first movie I ever saw that was an 18, and I remember it like it was yesterday as well. And I remember being on the bus going home in Glasgow with friends and just thinking, I will never sleep again.
It's so scary.
It was so, as you say, I think because it was adolescence, we were adolescent.
You identify.
Just remembering those
yeah.
people, just don't sleep,
Gets
don't
into
sleep,
your
and you're like,
psyche.
okay, I won't.
Yeah.
But
Well,
it
you're so vulnerable when you sleep.
It
right?
also
You can't
became a
control
great
it.
date movie because
Yeah,
guys realized that women love that movie because they followed the girl's journey. The guys were watching Freddie and the special effects and the scares, but the women were identifying with her journey. Will she survive?
Yeah.
You know, and in every episode of the franchise, there's a girl that defeats Freddie or survives Freddie, and she's, you know, our final girl is not final. She's a survivor girl, and without going into a great, you know, academic feminist dialogue here, that was. We did have strong women in each of our movies. And I think that brought in a lot of the original sort of horror fangirls to the audience back then. So I think that's something I'm kind of proud of. I didn't write it. I didn't create it. It's unintentional on my part. But it's still something that happened.
For sure.
As a part of the phenomenon of that franchise.
And were you always a fan of the genre? Were you interested in horror growing up?
Yeah, and you know, this is something that I suppressed because I became that guy in the corduroy jacket, in the turtleneck, with the patches on his sleeves that was never going back to Hollywood, never going to do television. I was only going to do the classics, you know. And I was full of myself for a while, you know, in the avant-garde and off Broadway and political theater. And I loved Grotowski and everything. I was obsessed with that. Peter Brook. Empty space, but I had suppressed the fact that as a child, I would mow lawns and use my profits and my allowance, and me and my mates would go down on Saturday. We'd talk some mother into driving us to the local movie theater, and we would do the double bill matinee, and we loved the Hammer horror, which was all imported for us, and then our own American horror. But I do remember, loving it. And I had a godfather who was a big book distributor for Simon & Schuster, the publishing company, probably handled most of their stuff west of the Mississippi. And he had a big, wonderful ranch house, again, literally walking distance from here, and with a kidney-shaped pool. And one of the bedrooms was all of the coffee table books that Simon & Schuster distributed. And one of them was called The Movies, and it had a red cover on it. But I remember looking through the horror section, and there was a great two-page spread of Karloff and the little girl at the lake. And there was a great spread from Dracula's daughters. And if you looked really close, you could almost see the daughters' nipples, you know, Dracula's daughters in their sexy, transparent gowns, you know, and that set off some kind of a buzzer in my pre-adolescent brain. But then there was a 2-page spread of one inch by 1 inch images of all of the makeups that Lon Chaney had worn.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
And I was obsessed with it. In fact, one of them was a placenta from an egg, and he put it over his eyeball.
Oh, wow.
Hard-boiled the egg to make his eye look milky and blind.
Wow.
So like the first contact lens, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, I'm wondering, was that summer that I was obsessed with that book, and I ditched my mom and dad and my godparents every time I went over there to swim in the pool and to look at that book. I'm wondering if that was the little voice in me when I was on that Wes Craven interview so many years later, you know, that I always wanted to mess with the makeup, you know, that I was fascinated with it. And I remember what you just said earlier in the interview, Billy, about in drama school, you have to learn makeup.
Yeah.
And as a professional actor, you do your own makeup
Yeah.
on the stage. You guys know that. And it's a skill. And, you know, there's always some old guy in the cast that's better at it than you.
Yeah.
You know, and he has that great old makeup kit, you know, with an old tackle box or something.
Yeah.
Things you've never seen before that you wish you had in yours because you want to be cool like that. But I was fascinated with that part of being a stage actor. You know, it's a weird contrast to, you know, going to the parties with all the best girls, which Dominic and I liked, but also like you didn't tell your male friends that you had a makeup kit. That would have been, so you had to keep those lives separate.
Yeah.
But I remember sitting with old English actors who had a ball, and they would wrap it in tinfoil, and they would take the tinfoil off and hold it. And it looked kind of roughly like a globe of the world, all these different colors. And that's all they would use. And they would sync their temples and change their labial fold, and give themselves a cleft or 5 o'clock shadow or highlight their eyes with all the, and that's all they used. These guys from London's West End that knew all these tricks. And I was just fascinated with that kind of backstage lore and art and
you brought that
skills.
My makeup box was my favorite thing.
Oh yeah,
when it came to the technical rehearsal and the dress rehearsal, and I'd get my box out
and your little towel.
You'd start working.
You have a little towel,
yeah,
fresh
cool.
towel. I mean, I loved all that stuff.
It's fun.
I had an old coffee cup with my brushes and my pencils in it.
Nice.
But I've always loved that about you, Robert. There's a lust for life on all that stuff, and whether it's the history of English theatre, or if it's or even food. When we went to Argentina and we're having food and wine and going to museums, you've got a real lust for life that is
well, what else is there to do, Billy?
Yeah, you know what I mean? But I love it. And that's what I mean about kind of Hollywood and movies. It feels like you love that. You love the history of it.
I think, I was so aligned with the theater. And when I came back to Hollywood, and I'm from Southern California, and I know my way around, and I know where the best apartments are hidden up in the hills and things. So it was easier for me than a lot of actors here. But my then girlfriend, who would go on to write Lost Boys, my title, her movie, but in fact, 2 of my roommates wrote that movie, James Jeremias and my girlfriend, Jan Fisher.
Did you come up with that title?
The title. Because the original fake out of the original draft, when you're above the town, going through the clouds, the camera's going through the clouds. The original fake out is a Peter Pan myth to fake you out when it's revealed that they're actually vampires, you see. And, but when I moved into Hollywood, my then girlfriend, we had a thing up by the phone. And it was all the revival houses, like the New Beverly Cinema, and there was one in Venice, and there was one in Santa Monica. And every night, there was a pristine print, double bill of film noir, or 2 great classic horror movies by Val Lewton, I Walked with a Zombie, or Double Indemnity, or some great John Ford Western, a perfect print. And every night, you could go for $1. Or $1.25, you could go see some. So I sort of relearned the history of Hollywood and of classic cinema, because I sort of had to clean my brain and cleanse myself from all of my affectation and attitude coming from the theater, Right. And I wanted to love film and watch it. So that's sort of why that was those couple of years there. 71, 72, 73. That's sort of when I was doing a lot of that. And that sort of became my knowledge of the history of Hollywood, because these people that I was with were going to see movies at the museum and going to see the film festival, Filmex, at the old Grauman's Chinese and stuff. And dragging me along, and I was just introduced to this entire history of Hollywood and the silver screen. I knew foreign films because I was that guy.
Yeah.
I was
You're the avant-garde guy.
Yes, I was going to see Antonioni films and, and things like that. But so I knew I was already kind of caught up on the foreign films, but it just made me respect and love American movie making.
Well, speaking of American movie making, could you just talk to us a little bit about Wes Craven? Because obviously a luminary filmmaker who, changed the genre of films, and you worked with him for, what was it, 20 years off and on?
Oh, I did a television series with Wes as well, Nightmare Cafe. No, I think the gift Wes had, he was able to keep the 14-year-old boy alive in him.
Yeah, that's lovely.
He used to do kind of adolescent puns a lot. And he's a brilliant guy. But I think he was stunted a bit as a child. I think his parents were very conservative, and Wes was only allowed to see Disney films, and even then on a limited basis. Right. So he was playing catch-up a bit with what had occurred in the American culture during his childhood. The horror movies, art movies, rock and roll, things like that. He was sort of playing catch up with it, and he loved all of that. He was interested in all of it. He wasn't just a horror director. That's sort of what befell him because of his early success. But I remember sitting in a New Wave bar. Remember the New Wave, you guys? Skinny ties.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I was sitting in this New Wave bar. I had a little crush on the bartender. I'd go in there and kill time before I'd call my agent at the end of the day after auditions and meetings. And she was a cutie pie. She had real kind of Sinead O'Connor looking, with a little leather jacket on, And at either end of the bar were these giant monitors with TVs stuck in them. And on one end, they would play a continuous loop of scenes from Eraserhead, the David Lynch film.
Yeah.
And on the other one, they would play continuous loops of The Hills Have Eyes and Last House on the Left in black and white.
Wow.
They were like black and white videos or something. Well,
that's rough.
Eraserhead is in black and white.
That's a rough bar.
But I associated Wes with David Lynch. As an artist of the dark arts, with a dark viewpoint, and that's one reason I wanted to audition for him. But Wes was just, every time I visited, he had Steve McQueen's old bachelor pad at the top of Nichols Canyon, overlooking the city all the way to the ocean, and. Every time I went over there, and it wasn't a lot, but there was always some great coffee table book. He was interested in something, tattoos or masks or something, and there was always some great new music he was listening to and stuff like that. He was just open to everything. I don't know if you've seen his evil voodoo movie, The Serpent and the Rainbow.
Oh no, I'm not seeing it.
With Bill Pullman.
Oh wow,
Bill Pullman, yeah. But that's one of his terrific films. On Location, Haiti. Wow.
Oh, I'll check it out.
There's a story in and of itself.
Yeah.
But yeah, Wes is just really was a remarkable guy, and I miss him every day. And none of us knew. I thought he broke his leg, and when you get older, it takes long to rehab and heal. And I thought he was just walking a dog on the beach on Cape Cod, with his new beautiful wife and rehabbing, and just sort of wanted to get better before he saw us all again. And I knew he had some TV projects, and I was hoping to be invited on one or two of them. And then he passed, and I was in London with Amanda Wyss, who played Tina in the original, and it just took the wind out of our sails. We walked straight into a pub and were there for hours. We couldn't believe it because no one knew that he had anything wrong with him. We just thought it would, the worst it could be is a knee replacement or a hip replacement.
And did he tell you where the origins of that original Nightmare on Elm Street story came from? Where did he think that up?
I think Freddy Krueger was a bully.
Oh,
yeah, and that's a real name, I think.
Wow.
Or Freddy's a real name, or Krueger's the real name, or perhaps both of them. But he liked Krueger because it was Germanic, and it was that Grimm's fairy tale aspect, that dark fairy tale, cautionary tale thing that he liked, and that's sort of the Freddy element. Now, there was an experience he had with his brother, left alone in the home. Mom and Dad were out, I don't know, went to church or something. But Wes and his brother were left alone, and they were upstairs in a bedroom. I think it had Venetian blinds. And they were going to bed, and they closed the blinds. And when Wes looked out, he saw this, what we used to call a hobo. I don't know what the politically correct thing is now. For unhoused, a bum who had soot on his face and a fedora. I don't know if he had a red and green striped sweater on. He may have just had an overcoat on or something. But Wes saw him, and he looked up and caught Wes's eye. And I think Wes turned off the light and peeked at him through the Venetian blinds, and then got back in bed with his brother and told his brother about it. And apparently, a few minutes later, the brother got up to check, and the guy was still there. Now they crept downstairs, and they went and they looked through the eye hole, the keyhole, the eye hole in the door, and the guy was now standing in the front walkway, looking at their front door. Now, nothing else happened, but those things happened.
That was enough.
And that was a kind of a source story,
Formative.
too, I think, yeah.
Wow.
Billy and Dom eat the world. Talking about formative stories, as you know, Robert, me and Tom like to eat the world on our podcast. And you said that maybe you have a story from your childhood that involves some food.
Well, I've been warned, and I narrowed it down to two: my pizza in Naples or my ice cream sandwich childhood trauma. So
Well, we can't do pizza in
know.
Naples.
I'm going to do the ice cream sandwich trauma. So I'm in kindergarten
Looking forward to this.
in the valley.
Oh,
Oh,
look,
my
here
God.
they come.
Johnny.
Oh, thank you. Look at this. In fact, hold on, Robert. I think I know a little bit of this story, so could you give me your plate for a second?
What are you going to do?
I don't think at this point the delicious part of it.
Save some for me.
I don't know this story. Go on,
Okay,
Robert.
so my elementary school in Encino, California, where I lived down the street from Clark Gable, was originally a dairy. It was called Rhoda Street, like Rhoda, the girl from Bad Seed.
Right?
Rhoda Street Elementary School, which Rhoda spelled backwards is Ador. And Ador was this very, very popular, very huge dairy in Southern California. And in fact, they were the people that delivered your milk and your eggs and your butter
Yep.
at the door, the milkman. So they were doing a marketing research
Right?
on children's taste buds at my elementary school.
Yeah.
And using my kindergarten class, and the night before I'd been given a permission slip, brought it in. You know, we're supposed to have your parents sign it. That
Yeah.
could be part of this experiment, this merchandising test. And I was afraid because I told that we were told by the teacher, you're going to get to eat an ice cream sandwich. Now, at the age of 5, all I could think of was that terrible white bread that everybody ate back in the 1950s with a scoop of vanilla ice cream on it, and that just sounded disgusting to me.
Yeah,
So
it does.
So you
I
didn't give
threw
your
I threw the permission slip away. I didn't tell my parents. I show up the next day, and in my classroom are these wonderful uniformed people dressed like milkmen, and everybody is handed. Oh God, I still don't have one. All these years later, I was handed this ice cream sandwich, which was this wonderful chocolate, like graham cracker,
Oh,
with
which we
this
have.
melty vanilla, French vanilla
yes.
bean ice cream in between it. And all of my classmates are eating it, and it's melting, and they're licking their lips, and they've been given these little personalized napkins, and they're devouring it, and I'm stuck with my mother's lunch that she prepared for me, and all that's left after my peanut butter and jelly sandwich are my carrot sticks and my celery.
Well, that's what we've got now.
That's absolutely.
That's what I'm left with now. all
Robert,
these years later.
I can't not give you an ice cream sandwich. Come
thank
on.
you.
But in honour of
that
that
was then.
story, we've got raw carrots, raw celery, and an ice
Finally.
cream sandwich.
And an ice cream. So this was them trying to work out if kids were going to like.
If kids
ice
were
cream
going to like
sandwich.
it. And then after that, they got another cooler in. They walked this other cooler in with the frost coming off of it. And they opened it up, and then they gave us, not me, but everybody else, every other classmate of mine, the Spumoni.
What's a
The
spumoni?
Spumoni Neapolitan ice cream sandwich, modeled after the Italian ice cream Spumoni, and it was strawberry, French vanilla, and chocolate
My God.
Oh yeah.
together in the ice
What do
cream
we call
sandwich.
that? We got what's that in Britain? A
Neapolitan, yeah.
Neapolitan, yeah.
Oh,
I think the ice cream, when it's mixed like that, is called Spumoni.
Spumoni. Do you know what? I've never had an ice cream sandwich,
Oh, they're
Robert.
lovely.
I have never in all my years. When I was growing up, I grew up in the schemes in Glasgow. They had this idea. There was too many people staying in the town of Glasgow, so they made these schemes in the outskirts, the council, and said to people, go and live out there. But they didn't build any stores or.
Well, that happened in California, too,
They
yeah.
did the same thing.
Urban sprawl, suburban sprawl.
So get out there, but then all these people were stuck with no stores, nothing to do. All the kids would become hooligans because there was nothing for them to do. And an ice cream van would come round,
Savoris.
and you could get ice cream. And the woman's name was Kelly.
Is that like the great Bill Forsyth film?
Exactly.
Oh,
With the
yeah.
ice cream and the ice cream mafia.
Yeah.
Comfort and Joy.
Comfort and Joy.
Joy,
God, what a
yeah.
great film.
With the wonderful
and that wonderful
Claire
actor.
Grogan.
That wonderful actor.
Oh, Ken. Oh, yeah.
so good.
What,
And Claire
Scottish
Grogan.
actor?
Claire Grogan from
God.
Gregory's Girls in it.
Gregory's Girl. That's right.
Oh.
But I, mean,
And
but
they
I loved it. The Ice Cream Mafia.
Ice cream mafia, brother.
God,
That was a real thing.
I finished my ice cream sandwich. It's all
That
gone.
was a real thing, Robert.
they're good, aren't they?
They're fantastic.
Absolutely lovely.
And I was deprived. The only kid
Wow.
in kindergarten.
Yeah, you made a
Because-
bad decision there.
Well, but I mean, what a life lesson. You know,
Get things signed. Get your paperwork done.
get your paperwork done, but also how we imagine stuff, and it's nothing like we imagine it. And think of all of the great vegetables and fruits and things when we were children that we didn't want to have because we didn't like the way they looked. Or like years ago when people used to make fun of anybody that had sushi and or things like that. And now now we love great Indian food and we love Japanese food and we can't get enough of Thai food and things like that.
Yeah, it's true.
But we were all finicky. And afraid, like I was, like little Robbie Englund.
Not want to eat white bread and ice cream. On the Friendship Onion, we like to score the food. We give it scores out of 10, is it?
10, yeah, Bills.
Out
10.
of 10.
Oh, thank you, Dom.
And
That story was exhausting.
so it's out of 10, and we have to we score it first off on taste or flavour. Then we score it on aesthetics, how it looks, and then we score it on how useful is it.
Yeah, I know, Robert. That's Billy's category. He came up with that one.
Useful Food
Is
Usefulness.
it
by
like
William Boyd.
if it's in your house?
Yeah.
And people come round, and you're looking, and maybe you've
Yeah,
got
you got flour,
you've got
eggs,
you've got
yeah.
eggs, you've got some orange juice, you've got. Is there anything you can make? Can you do? How useful it? But anyway,
Let's come back to that.
flavour.
But wait, are we just to jump in for a second?
Yeah.
Are we just scoring the ice cream sandwich, or are we scoring the carrots and celery?
Just the ice cream
Okay,
sandwich.
copy that. Because I'm enjoying the carrots and celery. Robert, flavour out of 10, and you can do a decimal
Who's
point if you
going
like.
first? Do you want to go first?
Shall I, as an
Yeah,
example?
go on as an example.
I liked it. I would like a little bit more punch to my ice cream. Maybe an actual bit of Madagascan vanilla bean in there. But I'm going to give it a solid 6.9.
I like it. Back in Scotland, we have something like it called a nugget,
Ooh.
which is a wafer on one side, and then it's like a cream-filled thing there, which I think is more interesting than just the chocolate there. But I liked it a lot. I'm going to give it a 8.5.
Oh, you did like it.
I did.
You did like it. Well, I am conflicted because I have the Marcel Proust memory,
Of course you
the
do.
bite the biscuit
Trauma.
memory of food before it was processed heavily. Because as a child growing up here, every corner was a fresh produce stand run by a Latino family who had literally a field of those vegetables. And the bad boys in high school that I went to school with a cigarette behind the ear, would eat a real basket, not a plastic basket, but a real little basket full of cherry tomatoes and flip them and catch them in their mouth like a peanut after they salted it with a little Camper's salt shaker. So I remember when food, and my memory of ice cream then, and of ice cream sandwiches was they were pure. The ice cream was better than this. And that the chocolate on it was more like a graham cracker, a chocolate graham cracker. But this did fulfill me, and this did taste good. And it's, for the audience right now, we're in the middle of a heat wave here.
We are.
And on a hot day,
Oh,
this ice cream. So I'm going to give it an 8.
okay.
It's not
solid,
bad.
solid.
I would agree with you
yeah.
on the wafer side. There's something kind of fake about that flavour.
The wafers
Yeah.
are much more processed and synthetic than they used to be.
How does it look? The aesthetics of it, Dom.
Well, when it was in the little cellophane wrapper before it started to get squished and, the little square shape, the platform, quite like that. Brown and white, the compliment. I'm going to give it an 8.5.
Well, that's quite high as well, Dom.
Yeah.
Yeah, now that Robert said that, there is something slightly fake about it. I'd like the white not to be as white. I want it to be more vanilla.
A little vanilla bean.
Yeah.
Well, yes, it's
something.
you want the Neapolitan.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The spumoni.
So I'm going to say it is a good look, but it's not amazing. So I can only give that a 7.
Well, I think the packaging is a little too reminiscent. I know this is one of Billy's pet peeves, but it's a little reminiscent of airplane food.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm going to give it. I'll give it a 6.5, 6.5
Yeah,
on the packaging.
I'll give
It's
you that.
Really, and it also, the way it's packaged, you can't really tell how long it's been around.
Oh yeah.
You know, the eat before date or the eat by date.
And how would you open that without crushing it? Because the whole that plastic. No. Yeah. Okay.
Usefulness.
How useful is an ice cream sandwich?
Is it portable? How long does it stay? Not melty. Not long.
Not long. So I mean, once it's out the freezer, you've got to be fast, haven't you? You could put it into a food processor with some fruit.
You can make a smoothie of some sort out of it.
That'd make a nice, because chocolate, vanilla, a couple of strawberries in there, a banana.
I've had an ice cream sandwich birthday cake. I have had one.
And how was that?
It was good. It was a long time ago, but I remember someone said as a kid their favourite thing was an ice cream sandwich, so they got an ice cream sandwich birthday cake, and it was good. Apart from that,
You're not
it's
really,
tough.
I mean,
Not very versatile, is it?
Tom, I'm going to say it's not that useful. Really, I can only give it a 4. Because it's not, you couldn't make a soup from it.
No, you couldn't. It's a 3 from me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. It's kind of a useless food.
It is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, like you
Empty
said,
calories.
it's immediate. You have to take it out and eat it. I'm just trying to think if there's. I was trying to think. I wonder what it would be like in a dish with hot chocolate syrup, or if that would kick it.
With some
and make
nuts,
it-
maybe some ground
maybe
nuts.
maybe some nuts to break it up a bit. That might be an interesting alteration of it. But no, it's pretty useless. I'll give it a 5.
Yeah.
5 is
okay.
being nice.
Well, it was a good story, though. It
was.
And it was a sad story.
It's supposed to be. It's because it's also a cautionary tale.
Yeah.
You know, because you shouldn't. Don't judge food by your imagination or like a book by its cover.
Yeah.
You know.
See, this is the thing. This is getting back to this lust for life that you've got, Robert, that I enjoy. I love it when you happen to be so. And another thing you do which is great, and a lot of actors don't do this, is you will be very kind to people. You'll watch TV shows or films and you will rave about people's performances. You'll rave about a new TV show or a new movie that you've saw. You'll drop a note saying, you have to watch this. You have to watch this person in this.
Oh, you've been reading my tweets.
I not even just talking to you. Every time I meet you, there'll be a new TV show that you've watched, and you love some actor.
Well,
in
because Twitter is so unkind,
It is.
I decided,
unfortunately.
and I'm a cynic, but I decided to have a snark-free
it. Oh, lovely.
Good for you.
tweet, and I love actors. I love them. And I'm a fanboy. And so I try to remind my fans of things they shouldn't miss.
Right.
And one of the great things I love about doing film festivals and conventions is I get to meet you guys, you know, and tell you I'm a fan of yours. And other actors that I meet or I've just, you know, I got to tell Brendan Fraser what a fan I am of his, and I understand he has a new film coming out that's just extraordinary.
The Whale.
The Whale, but also I'd seen his The Ugly American with Michael Caine. He's brilliant in that.
Yeah.
And several other things too. The James Whale, not the Whale, but the James Whale Frankenstein thing he did. But recently I did Stranger Things, and there's a boy on that, and you may know him, Joseph Quinn.
Right.
But I watched him on a Friday in London, and there was maybe 3 or 4 T-shirts of the Hellfire Club from Stranger Things at the con. And on Saturday, there was 100 Hellfire T-shirts and maybe 20 T-shirts with his image on them. And on Sunday, there was probably 150 Hellfire T-shirts and about 100 T-shirts, different T-shirts with different images of Joseph on them as his character, Eddie Munson. And I watched him become, for him, I think, the first time of being a star. But I and you guys understand how difficult his job was on that show, because that show's in its 4th season. He got dropped into it. All the kids, everybody knows everybody. They've all been doing it for years now. He's dropped into it. He has a certain responsibility of being comedy relief. He's also a reluctant hero of sorts. He also, and when I saw it, there was something I kept going, who does he remind me of? Who does he remind? And then I realized, because that show is a pay-in to the 80s, and I realized looks like Eddie Van Halen.
All right.
You know,
Yeah.
and it was such a great choice. And I wanted him to know, and I was able to share with him just that actor's thing of, boy, I know how difficult, I knew the degree of difficulty
Very cool.
that he had to go through on that show. And I love doing that
Yeah.
for other actors, because I love it when a fan or when an actor comes up and reminds me of some movie I did in 1975 and some little shtick or piece of business I did, or some line delivery that I did 45 or 50 years ago. And they still remember that. And they remember like a great pool shot I did in a master, or they remember some fight scene I had that really got, and I love getting that specific little moment, that little, and I know you guys love it when somebody just talks about some little quiet moment
absolutely.
you had in something that, you just realize that 10 years later and 5,000 miles away, your performance registered.
Yeah,
with
it still
someone.
resonates.
Yeah.
And speaking of that loss for life, Robert, you're heading to one of the more exciting film festivals on the planet, to Sitges. On Tuesday, you're going to Spain.
I'm on a plane on Tuesday. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that, because you're not just attending the festival this time. It's more of a
I'm
special
getting
thing.
an award, and I love it because their award is so cool. It's the robot from Metropolis.
Oh, I love it.
And it was also the time machine from the H.G. Wells,
My
the famous
favorite.
movie.
Wicked.
Rod Taylor,
Oh,
Yvette Mimieux, the Eloy.
Very cool.
Love that film. But I also have a documentary. I think it's called Hollywood Dreams and Nightmares, and it's just sort of like, I haven't seen it, and I'm going to have to see it before they screen it there, because I can't watch it with an audience. It'll be like going to your own funeral,
Yeah, it's
like
excruciating.
Huckleberry Finn, Tom Sawyer, when they show up at their funeral. But and then I think there's going to be a sizzle reel for a new movie I have coming out called Natty Knox. A little down and dirty horror movie,
Nice.
with Danielle Harris.
and you have a TV show on just now as well,
Well,
right?
I think it's going to be all of October. I think it begins earlier in October, but I think there's 6 hours, maybe more. And it's great. You guys are going to like it. The Compendium of Horror, and I narrate it. And it's on Epic's channel, and it's the history of horror in movies.
Oh, fantastic.
And they got way down deep in the rabbit hole of the Universal Archives. Just some extraordinary images you've never seen before. Behind the scenes stuff in the classic days of Universal, as well as lots of other stuff. And I knew I was happy to do this project when they included one of my early science fiction movies that I watched as a little boy after school. It was called Them, about the giant ants, and it has this terrific sound effect that the ants make that you couldn't improve upon today.
Great poster, great movie
I
poster.
remember
Them.
that poster, yeah.
The James Whitmore.
Brilliant.
James Whitmore.
Well, it's so great to see you still being so busy and still moving around and
Well,
feeling...
you guys too. We always see each other in airports and,
We do.
and
All over
lobbies
and-
and lobby bars.
Yeah. Yeah. And hopefully at some point soon at a convention, because we're doing hopefully maybe one or two more before the end of
Yeah,
this year.
yeah,
We'll
or a
see.
film festival or somewhere.
Somewhere, yeah. And then next year I'll see you guys on the road again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I owe you guys a drink
Yeah,
Brilliant.
for
yeah,
inviting
good.
me here. All right.
Wow, we
And
were so
how about
happy to have
how
you.
about some carrot sticks and.
Yeah, we'll bring some for you.
Thank you very much,
Oh,
Robert.
thanks for having me.
What a
guys.
wonderful chat.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Great.
Dom, where do people send, if they wanted to send a voicemail
Yeah,
to the
maybe if
Friendship
you want to
Onion?
get in touch with us or something like that.
Where would that be?
You could do that at the Friendship Onion. Billy will get it right.
Speakpipe.com/The Friendship Onion. You can get merchandise, which is like t-shirts and things. We'll give you one for free. Don't you
Goodies
worry
and
about
stuff.
that, Robert. At thefriendshiponionpodcast.com. We'll see you next week on The Friendship Onion.
They've got cool swag, you guys.
It's
Right?
true.
with me and hold me tight all through the night. You're shining bright, I'm your oyster, baby, you're my pearl.